So the poinsettia card is our last card that we're going to make today. Now, the reason I wanted to do this one is because I wanted you to know that you don't necessarily have to, if you wanted to do stamping and embossing, you don't necessarily have to have stamps and dies that match. You could use an image stamp within an oval, circle, square, whatever shape that you want, and create a stained glass card that way. So this one here, I've already got the oval cut out of it. I'm going to put this to the side. I'm going to use my card base to position where I want my stamps. My acetate here is really wanting to stick to that media grip mat. Now this acetate, once again, because we're doing some stamping and embossing, is the heat resistant one. Sorry, lost my English again there. All right, so I've got my stamp where I want it to go. I'm going to put it back up, and then I'm going to take my card base off and tuck it to the side. So I'm going to put my Versamark ink onto my stamp here. So Versamark ink is just an embossing ink. It's a clear, sticky ink. So that's what the embossing powder is going to stick to. And it's stamped perfectly the first time, so I'm going to take my acetate out of there and my stamp as well and tuck that to the side. Now this one I'm embossing with black ink, and the reason I did that was because I wanted to show you a little trick to getting your embossing powder to match your card when working with Copic markers. And it only works if you do it on black cardstock, and you'll see why in a minute. There we go. And put the rest of this powder back in the container. And then we emboss. And once again, I'm going to move my heat gun around quite a bit so that I'm not having the heat in one area, because again, it's heat resistant, not heat proof. So it will start to warp if it gets too hot in an area. There we go. So I'm going to color on my scrap piece of paper here so that you can see what I'm doing. And again, I'm going to color on the back side. So I'm going to do the back, actually. No, I'm going to do this. I'm going to put this underneath it just so I can see where my opening is. I'm just putting a little bit of blue in the background just to give it a bit of color. You can leave it alone. You could use a different color. I didn't want the blue to overtake the red of the poinsettia though, so I kept it light. And if by chance you get over the edge, you don't need to worry about it, because as soon as I go with the red, it is going to completely cover the blue and take that away. So I ended up not getting a perfect stamp in here. I was looking at all the petals. I didn't think to look in there. So I'm just putting the yellow where I want it. I don't think it's going to be a huge issue. It's not a big focal point of the card. And I'm coloring the whole red spot. This is kind of a pinky red. And then I'm going to take my lighter color, it's just a pink, and I'm going to take some of that red from the edges of the flowers. And again, you're going to see a little bit of streaking. It just happens with alcohol ink on plastic. And by alcohol ink, I mean alcohol ink markers. Alcohol ink in a bottle is going to react completely different, but that's because it's a different form of the medium. So now I'm going to take a lighter color, and I'm not worrying about this part at all. It's not on the front of the card, so there's no point in worrying about it. I'm taking my lighter color, and I'm just going to take some of that color off of those petals. And then clean your brush between times because you want to take some of that off. It'll start to build up on there. This marker is actually a little bit dry and I don't have a refill for it, so I can't refill it. It would be better if the marker was a little bit wetter. I'm going to use the lighter pink just see if that works a bit better. There we go. Just wanted a little bit more difference between the lighter and the darker of the two colors there. And the reason I'm doing the lighter and the darker is because if I just colored this all one color of red or pink, this is a pinky red, you wouldn't necessarily see the shadow of the petal going behind the other petal. So I'm trying to make sure that I'm seeing some of the highlights and some of the shadows by doing this. And I'm using Copics because that's what I have. There's a whole bunch of different brands of alcohol markers. You could use any one of them. I'm sure the other brands would work the same way as this. Copics, I believe, were the first brand of alcohol markers, and they're just the ones that I had, and I quite like them. So anytime I've tried any of the other ones, they've not been my cup of tea. But I know some of the other ones are a lot more economical for people that are starting out. Once again, to clean your marker, color it on some scrap paper until the other color is clear. You may get a little bit of staining on your marker, but it's not going to ruin it at all. As long as that color comes out, you're good to go. All right, so there we are. Let's start to assemble. Just want to make sure that I have my oval the right way, just because it might not have been placed exactly. And this one, obviously, there's a lot fewer nooks and crannies to get that glue in. So just around this rectangle of the card front, and then around, make sure you glue it on right, and then around the oval, and you're good. There we go, and then this one here. Match up that oval. Perfect. And obviously you can't see it as much because it's on the black mat that I'm working on, but I'm going to put my acrylic block and some weight on it and let that dry for a moment, and I'll be back in the next video to show you how to do the sentiment.